Yeah, so I think a lot of the questions you've already answered, so I'll try to like synthesize them a little bit more. So it's just a more broad topic. So we got a lot of questions about the cookie cutter sort of prospect for medical students. So they think that it would be someone who has some past experience, like volunteered at a hospital, done some research, worked or has taken a lot of biology courses. Do you agree or disagree? Or what extracurricular activities do you think could possibly make a student a better candidate? Or do you think it matters?
Yeah, so give me $1 every time I heard that question. That'd be like rich. I again, this will also vary depending on which person you ask this question to. I am very confident in what I say is that medical school, especially UofT and moving forward with more of a liberal, progressive state, they're not going to be looking for cookie cutter students. That's something that's been like 10, 20, 30 years ago where, you know, you do your biology, you do your chemistry, and your physics. That's still fine. That's awesome. That's something I still did even before applying to medical school. So that's the program requirements that I've had. Whether or not there exists a checklist, this is visible secret checklist that people are like, ooh, I need to do this to get into medical school. I need to do research. I need to volunteer. I volunteered in a hospital once and I hated it. I never did it again. I didn't even include that in my application. I've had friends that have never set foot in a hospital besides being a patient and gone to medical school. I've had friends that never took a single biology until doing the MCAT and then getting to medical school with a pure like history background or anthropology background. So I don't think there is necessarily a cookie cutter, nor do I believe there should be a cookie cutter. I think the wider the variety of audiences and the wider experience you have, that makes you a better physician in general. It makes you more appealing, it makes you more interesting to the interviewers. And I think especially in Toronto and big cities where you have so many diverse patients, it's not just like, unfortunately, many, many years ago, it was the stereotypical Caucasian white male that is kind of used to be the prototype patient, right? Now we know that's not true. There's so many racial discrimination, there's so many economic backgrounds that's involved, and you really need to have doctors from all different backgrounds to really help. I enjoyed research. That's something I personally did. I did a master's because I enjoyed it so much. Did that help in my application? Sure, it did because I enjoyed it. But I also think that schools have done it for too many years now to know if someone actually are lying about whether or not they like doing whatever they're doing. So I really encourage you to do things that you are actually interested in, because that just makes you way more of a relatable person. If you cured cancer, that's fantastic. But if you hated it, that's, you know, that speaks to your character. Like, oh, like, so we're hiring someone to be a student that hates what they're doing, but did well. That's a little like difficult to now comprehend.
Yeah.
So I think that you should really enjoy and explore interest. And medical school is always there for you. Like, you don't have to feel you're rushed to apply. So I had friends that traveled the world and still wanted to do medical school, and that's super awesome because it made them realize they're not doing it for anyone else but themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
So you already talked a little bit about this, but are there any more myths about the medical field, becoming a doctor, that you'd like to dispel?
That's fantastic. How much time do we have? I'm kidding.
I don't have a lot.
I think something that people think about with doctors, especially because that's always so dramatized in like TV shows and etc., is that doctors are like this head honcho. It's like, we need to make the final decisions and we're the most important person in this room. And I'm so happy that's not the case, at least in most places that I recognize now. Unfortunately, there may be communities where doctors, unfortunately, are the only healthcare professionals, so they're the only opinions that patients have. But in Toronto or big cities where you have not just doctors, but nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and so many others, it really is a team collaboration. So if you think that you're the type of person to always be like, I want to be the only voice that matters, don't go into being a doctor, because I'm sorry to say, patient care now needs to be not doctor-centered. It has to be a team-based approach. You know, nurses sometimes will have the most information about a patient and doctors won't. So why would doctors make sense for them to give the most important advice or opinions to the patients, right? So I really think that it's something that should be demystified. Another thing is, I think we mentioned about being rich and making a lot of money. Don't do it if you're into money. It really is not worth the amount of work and the possible heartache and the mental stress. If you're just caring about it, you really want to do it because you really enjoy it. Is there just one type of doctor out there? Absolutely not. You're gonna have also in the job good doctors. You're gonna have awful doctors. I've came across a few doctors that I would never go back to because I had such a bad experience. So, you know, I think doctors sometimes are in this pedestal that they are so knowledgeable, they're so correct in everything they do. That's very BS because they're humans as well. I know for sure I'm going to make mistakes as a doctor. Other doctors are going to make mistakes. And some doctors are too stubborn to admit they made mistakes, which is quite dangerous now because now patients' lives are at your hands if you don't admit it. And depending on what field you're going into, you know, the environment's going to be very different. Emergency doctors are going to have very different mentalities as compared to maybe a family doctor, right? Just based on the nature of what type of patients they work with. So don't think that, like, you know, Grey's Anatomy, House, or ER is going to be like, that's the only type of doctor available out there. Nah, there's so many wide variety and little, like, interesting personalities that I've already came across, and I'm so early already in my career.
Okay. Yeah, I think that almost wraps it up. Just some final thoughts of anything that you want to emphasize more or you want to get off your chest about your medical school experience and what perspectives one should know. Or if you would like to even self-promote yourself on your social media handles, or if you would like to talk about a project that you really found interesting, anything that you want to talk about.
Sure. So I think from STEM Fellowships, I'm also organizing this neuroscience course. Some of you may have heard about or being advertised to, so if you're interested, I'm passionate about neuroscience and I'm really passionate about teaching. So application is being sent out. So if you're aware of that, let me know. In terms of just little, like, key messages or notes to take away from this, I really think that you guys are so early, and I don't want to be like condescending, like, oh, you're so young, but I really say that you're really early. This is the only opportunity where you have so much flexibility. You know, COVID's going to be a bit of a downer, unfortunately, with some of the things you can do, but once this is lifted off, hopefully sooner rather than later, and even with online experiences, try to just explore different things. I've had friends that went to medicine and then were like, I hate this, and dropped out, and then became a business person because they really enjoyed business. And on the converse, I've had a classmate that was a professional pilot, like actually pilot, and married, and then was like, I want to go back to medicine now. So never feel like you have to stick to one career path, no matter who tells you what or when. There's no time limit. I've heard from my parents that, why are you wasting a year taking a year off? Shouldn't everyone be graduated by 4 years instead of 5 years? Those kind of negative remarks, try to, you know, filter those out. There is no time limit. Whatever time limit you have is the only time limit you impose on yourself. And never do anything because someone tells you to do. And you may not even realize you're only applying to medical school or whatever school because you're being told to, because we're so ingrained in that mindset. So that's why I really emphasize do different things, because you don't know what you like until you do it. I would have been a teacher if I did not go into medical school, because I didn't know how much I loved teaching until I became a high school teacher or taught in university. So, and that's something I want to continue to carry on throughout my career. So definitely explore your interests. That would just make you a better person. That would just make you a happier person. And yeah, just try to stay safe in this crazy time right now.
Mm-hmm.